Hi. Okay. So, a while ago, I wrote a Facebook post about existentialism, and I want to make this video as a follow-up to that. I'm sorry about my voice. I just have the flu. Um, so anyway, I want to explain first a concept by Rav Kook known as Nishmot de Tohu, souls of chaos. And then I want to explain how I see it as being related to existentialism. So souls of chaos is basically a concept that there are two types of people or souls in this world: Nishmot de Tikkun and Nishmot de Tohu. Nishmot de Tikkun are people who are able to accept reality as it is, even if it's not ideal, even if it's not perfect, and they're aware of that. They have the ability to just say, okay, that's life, and let's continue building. Let's get on with the system. And they're able to live within the limitations of this world and build. And the other type of people are Nishmot de Tohu. And these are people who Rav Kook describes as being excessively idealistic, to the point where it leads to bad places, because it's basically people who are uncomfortable in this world because it never lives up to their ideals, and they realize that it's not possible that reality will ever the gap between the real and the ideal will never really be bridged in their lifetime, at least. And this leads to a state of despair, of sorrow, of anger, and to a certain and from that to destruction, because when you're living in a limited reality and you're uncomfortable with it, then you just kind of want to break it. You don't accept it. You refuse to accept things as they are. So, okay, I hope I explained that properly. It's also important to understand that there are righteous versions of Nishmot de Tohu and evil versions, and there's also righteous Nishmot de Tikkun and evil Nishmot de Tikkun, so, and anywhere in between. But the essay that Rav Kook speaks about is referring specifically to the negative version of Nishmot de Tohu. So that's for that. Now the question is, who are Nishmot de Tohu? And I've heard all kinds of opinions about this. I think generally most people, when they read this, the image they get in their head of Nishmot de Tohu is of people who are like violent or aggressive or loud and like throwing rocks and like aggressively rebelling against society and debating everyone and being rude and mean and evil and immoral and things like that. And like I've heard like people refer to like hilltop youth as Nishmot de Tohu, or to kids with ADD who don't listen to their teachers, all kinds of things like that. And that might be true, like definitely possible, and I definitely think that these are manifestations of or expressions of the world of chaos, because everything that's not proper is an expression of the world of chaos. However, when Rav Kook wrote Nishmot de Tohu, he had a certain person in mind. And sorry. And might have a little bit of a fever, I think. Anyway, what was I saying? He had a certain person in mind, And that person was Yosef Chaim Brenner, which is this guy right here. He was the guy that the Nishma was probably written about, in a sense. And Rav Kook's son, Rav Tziyuda, was 17 at the time, and he actually sent this essay, Souls of Chaos, to Yosef Brenner to read it, to let him read it. Rav Kook was probably the one who told him to send it. And the second person that Rav Kook refers to indirectly as a Nishma Dato is Schopenhauer, however you pronounce that. Schopenhauer, I think. So there's somewhere he talks about Chachmei Detohu, the wise people of chaos, and he mentions Schopenhauer by name in that text. So these are the two people that I found Rav Kook referring to as actually Nishma Dato. And when you think about it, what do these people have in common? Neither of them were really aggressive or violent or rude or any of those things. Brenner especially was considered like the Jews of the generation loved Brenner. He was super appreciated, and he was considered a righteous person. He was very kind and did a lot of good things. He tried helping. He did a lot of volunteering. He did a lot of. He was trying to help the Jews of the generation. So they were none of these things. What they had in common was something else. Both Brenner and Schopenhauer are existentialists. That's what they have in common. And they're also writers, and because they're philosophers, so writers and they're poets and they're philosophers, but specifically their philosophy is existentialist. So that was long. 7.5 minutes, okay. So now I want to explain what existentialism is and why I think it's important to understand existentialists, because often we have a kind of... I mentioned Kierkegaard to a friend of mine a while ago, and her reaction was, I don't like him, and that's why. And she said that because he's really whiny, like a crybaby, complaining about life and how everything is hard and there's so much suffering and he's depressed and blah blah blah. And I think a lot of people have this view of existentialists, kind of like people who just need to get over themselves and get on with the system, and we're all in the same in the same boat. And why can't you existentialists just be like everyone else and get over yourselves? So the answer is that they can't. That's what makes an existentialist, because it's an expression of nishma detohu. It's people who just can't get on with the system. They can't get over the fact that there's so much suffering in life. They can't get over they can't not ask all the hard questions and ponder them obsessively. I saw this comics on Facebook yesterday, and it shows, it's like a fictional comics, it shows Kierkegaard and another guy sitting in a bar, and Kierkegaard is saying that he's really tired because he didn't sleep all night, and the other guy saying, asking him why, and he said, and Kierkegaard is like, what, you fall asleep right away? You mean you don't lie awake for several hours in bed thinking about the inevitability of death? And the guy says no. And then he says, so when you think about death, how death is certain, but the existence of the afterlife is painfully uncertain. And he's like, no, I don't think about that. And he's like, and he keeps like asking him, don't you think about like the terrible burden of freedom, the fact that every moment we choose something, we lose on, like, we close a million other options in life. And the guy's like, no, I just think about normal things like sports, women, work, normal stuff like that. And then the guy just tells Kierkegaard to just relax, and he leaves. And then Kierkegaard is thinking, good God, he's so despaired that he doesn't even recognize his own despair. I'd sure hate to be him. So this comics is I think it's a very good like way to kind of get into the mind of the existentialist. It's basically Kierkegaard is saying, I'm the normal one. Like, the fact that I can't sleep at night because I think about all the deep questions of life, that's normal. Like that, like, how can you not be like that? How can you not have these thoughts? How can you not ponder these things obsessively? And like, how can you just sleep? How can you sleep at night? And so for the existentialist, existentialist would rather be depressed and tortured, but like confront the hard questions in life rather than repress what existentialists believe everyone else is basically repressing it. I think they're right. So that. And this is basically a rant. I'm going to title this video Rant because like there's like no structure. I don't even know. I was like, okay, never mind. Next time I'll make it more organized. Not really. Okay, so what else did I want to say? I had so much to say. Just a second. Yeah, I'll just give like some examples of things existentialists say to kind of get into their head. So, for example, there's this quote, which I don't have right here, so never mind, but it's from Albert Camus, and he says something like that when he looks at a beautiful painting or something like that, he gets depressed. And then there's like a question like, why are you getting depressed? You're looking at something beautiful. And the answer, of course, is that when Camus is looking at a beautiful painting, it reminds him of the ideal. And then he was like, oh, that's the ideal. I can almost taste it. I can almost sense it. I can almost touch it. But it's not really here. And then he gets depressed. So for the existentialist, everything turns black, negative, sorrowful, painful. And it's not like people who are just like being whiny, but it's like an actual state of their psyche, which is like, that's just the channel they're in tune with in life. They're just aware of that channel, and for them, everyone else is like how can you not be like that? All the weird happy people, So that. And so I'll just finish, I'm just going to finish this video. I'm just going to finish by giving a metaphor for Nishma Dito and Nishma Tikkun. I would say that it's like when we're in heaven, all the souls in heaven are there together. And then when we're sent into this world, the Nishma Tikkun are basically people who forgot a little bit what heaven was actually like. Whereas Nishma Tohu are people who have a very strong, vivid memory of heaven, of Gan Eden. And that makes life really, really hard to live in. Kind of like if you think about two princesses that lived in a castle and were sent away from the castle. And one of them, let's say she took a magic potion and she forgot that she was ever a princess. And she's living in the woods, in rags, and she doesn't have everything she used to have, but she's happy, and she's looking at the other princess who still remembers that she's a princess, and she's telling her, why can't you be happy? Like, look at this wonderful forest. But what she doesn't realize is that the other princess remembers that she's a princess, and so the forest life is never going to make her happy. She's never going to be content and satisfied. And that's basically the mental state of the existentialist. And from that is like how they develop these dark ideologies that can sometimes be very pessimistic. Now, why is this important? Because existentialists are actually the people that turn good in their ideology, could make great people, because they have a very strong sense of idealism. And Rav Kook is basically instructing this generation to provide answers for people like Schopenhauer and Brenner. So if there's when a rabbi, let's say, wants to provide answers to this generation, to give answers, the question that he needs to be asking himself is, will this answer make Kierkegaard fall asleep at night? If the answer is that Kierkegaard is still going to lie awake in bed thinking about depressing things, then that's probably not the best answer. And if a lot of other people think it's a wonderful answer, that this rabbi is just a genius and oh my god, he's so holy and amazing, but Kierkegaard isn't still not sleeping at night, then that is not the answer. That is not good enough. So you gotta come up with better answers. That's it. That's all I have to say. Total rant. I'm so sorry for this. I'm gonna make a better video next time. Bye.